The sun was setting in Los Angeles when Sylvester Stallone received the first threatening message on his cell phone. It was not uncommon to receive strange messages from fans, but this one was different. It came from the personal number of Arnold Schwarzenegger, his longtime friend. "You will pay for what you did, Sly. We are all coming for you." The veteran actor frowned in confusion as he paced the expansive living room of his Beverly Hills mansion. Stallone tried to call back, but the call went straight to voicemail. Then his phone buzzed with a cascade of notifications. Dozens of sensational headlines exploded across social media. Stallone betrayed Hollywood peers, Rocky star revealed as FBI informant against fellow action stars, Sly sold production secrets to rival studios for decades. His heart raced as he scrolled through the screen, watching his reputation crumble in real time. "What the hell is this?" he muttered to himself, remembering Rambo's famous line, "They drew the first blood, not me." Only this time, someone was spilling his reputation on the internet, and the speed at which the accusations were spreading was frightening. His agent called in a panic, "Sly, we're trying to get this under control, but it's like a wildfire. Someone orchestrated this perfectly." As he tried to figure out what was going on, Stallone received a photo on WhatsApp. It was an image of him apparently handing documents to a man in a suit in a dark restaurant. The photo was obviously doctored, but it looked convincing enough to the uninitiated. The message came from Jason Statham. "I thought we were family, Sly. You sold us like merchandise." If you've been following this incredible story, be sure to share your theories in the comments. Will Stallone be able to clear his name? Stay tuned to the end to find out, and don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive content like this. Stallone barely had time to process Statham's message when his security system went off. Exterior cameras showed a black SUV pulling up across the street. Even from a distance, he recognized the unmistakable silhouette of Dolph Lundgren stepping out of the vehicle. The same man who played the ruthless Ivan Drago in Rocky IV now appeared to be hunting Stallone in real life, with a determination reminiscent of his character. "I will break you, Adrian!" Stallone exclaimed involuntarily, channeling his most famous character in a moment of genuine panic. He quickly turned off the lights in the mansion and went to his office. He opened the safe built into the wall and took out a pistol. He never imagined that he would have to defend himself against friends he considered like brothers. For a moment, he felt like he was in cop land, where his character, the sheriff, had to face a group of corrupt police officers alone. The phone rang again. It was his old friend Bruce Willis, one of the few people who hadn't sent him threats yet. "Sly, you need to get out of there now. It's not just Dolph. Arnold is rounding everyone up. They believe you've been working with the government for years to monitor all of our activities. There are documents, emails, photos, all fake, but very convincing." "Bruce, can you believe this?" Stallone asked, as he watched through the monitors as Lundgren made his way around the perimeter of his property, clearly searching for a weak spot in the security system. "Of course not, you idiot," Willis replied. "I've known you for decades. This is a setup, and a big one. Someone wants to see you all destroy yourselves." Stallone grabbed a backpack and began stuffing it with the essentials: money, documents, a laptop, and some clothes. "I need to find out who's behind this," he told Willis. "I have an idea, but it's going to take me a while. In the meantime, I need to disappear." As he spoke, he saw on the monitors that a second car had arrived. Terry Crews stepped out, his impressive muscles visible even through the dark suit he wore. "They're taking this seriously, Bruce. They look ready for a military operation," Stallone observed, wryly recalling how he had assembled these same men for The Expendables, creating an elite team of action heroes. Now, this private army was turning against its creator. "I have a place where you can hide," Willis said. "A secluded ranch in Montana. No one knows about it, not even my agent. Write down the address and destroy it later. I'll try to buy you some time. Maybe I can talk to some of them and make them understand that they're being manipulated." As he jotted down the address, Stallone saw Lundgren and Crews meet at the entrance to the property. They appeared to be discussing strategy. Then, to his horror, he saw a third vehicle approaching, a motorcycle ridden by Jason Statham. The situation was escalating quickly. "I have to go now, Bruce. They're gathering outside." There's an underground passage in your master closet that leads to the back garage, Willis recalled. You built it after the stalking incident in 2015. Stallone had almost forgotten about this escape route. Use it. Leave in the least conspicuous car you have. And Sly, be careful. These guys are not messing around. Stallone hung up the phone and took one last look at the monitors. There were now 5 men outside: Lundgren, Cruz, Statham, and 2 others he recognized as Wesley Snipes and Mickey Rourke. All armed, all with determined expressions he had seen before, but only in movie scenes, never directed at him in real life. "It's not about how hard you hit," he muttered to himself, quoting Rocky Balboa, "it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." Backpack on, he headed for the closet to begin his escape. The back garage was a large space that housed Stallone's impressive car collection. His instincts told him to take the Lamborghini; it was fast enough to outrun any pursuers. But Willis was right, he needed to be discreet. He opted for a black Ford Explorer with tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that would blend into the Los Angeles traffic without attracting attention. As he started the engine, he heard the crash of glass breaking in the main house. They had gone inside. In the rearview mirror, he saw Statham running toward the garage, moving with the same agility he had in Transporter. Stallone accelerated, tearing through the back entrance of the property as Statham drew a gun. "Just like old times, huh, Frank?" Statham yelled, referring to Stallone's character in The Expendables. "Only this time, you're the target." A bullet hit the rear windshield, shattering it. Stallone slammed on the accelerator, making a sharp turn onto the residential street and disappearing into the Beverly Hills night. His phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, he answered it through the car's Bluetooth system. "Sly, it's Van Damme." The Belgian star's voice was strained. "I can't believe what they're saying about you, but I need you to know, they've recruited practically everyone. Schwarzenegger is leading this like a military operation." "Jean-Claude, what the hell is going on?" Stallone asked, swerving down side streets to avoid the main avenues where he could easily be tracked. "Someone has fabricated some very convincing evidence. Emails, photos, even official documents showing that you've been an FBI informant for decades, reporting suspicious activity on all of us. There are even audio recordings that appear to be your voice." As he drove down Mulholland Drive, Stallone saw 2 motorcycles appear in his rearview mirror, quickly gaining ground. "I have company, Gene. I have to go." Before Van Damme could respond, Stallone ended the call and threw his cell phone out the window. He knew they could track him through the device. The motorcycles approached, one on either side of the Explorer. In the helmet of the rider on the left, even with the visor closed, Stallone recognized the intense eyes of Wesley Snipes. On the right, the unmistakable stance of Statham. They both gestured for him to stop, but Stallone had other plans. Channeling his driven driving skills, Stallone made a sudden turn, forcing Snipes to swerve to the shoulder. Taking advantage of the momentary confusion, he veered sharply onto a dirt road he knew well, a shortcut he had used during the filming of a commercial years ago that led to an abandoned property in the hills. The darkness of the dirt road made the chase difficult, and Stallone used that to his advantage. He turned off his headlights and continued driving with only the moonlight as a guide, something he had learned while filming Rambo. After a few minutes of driving blindly, he pulled over at a small abandoned warehouse and waited, his heart hammering in his chest. Motorcycles zoomed past on the main road, their headlights cutting through the darkness like lasers. As the sound of their engines faded into the distance, Stallone allowed himself to breathe again. He needed a plan. Montana was 1,000 miles away, and he was sure the airports and major highways were being monitored. He remembered a line his character Rocky used to say, "The world is not a place of rainbows and sunsets. It's a nasty, mean place that doesn't care how tough you are. It will beat you down and keep you down if you let it." Well, he wouldn't. Sylvester Stallone, the man who created Rocky and Rambo, would not be defeated by a conspiracy, no matter how well orchestrated. After waiting another 30 minutes to make sure he was safe, Stallone got back on the road, this time following back roads heading east. He needed help, but he couldn't trust many people right now. Then he remembered someone who wasn't in the action star circle, an old friend from before he was famous, Richard Gere, who lived on a secluded ranch in Northern California. Dawn found Stallone at a roadside diner on the outskirts of Bakersfield. Wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes and sunglasses, he tried to be inconspicuous as he sipped coffee and watched the news on a small TV on the counter. The story was on every channel: Sylvester Stallone, from hero to traitor, the fall of a Hollywood icon. The reports showed footage of him allegedly in secret meetings with federal agents over the years. There was even a video, clearly doctored but convincing to the public, in which he appeared to be handing over documents about his colleagues. "This is crazy," he muttered to himself, as the waitress eyed him with growing suspicion. He paid the bill and hurried out, but when he reached the parking lot, he saw a black SUV identical to the one Lundgren had been driving parked across the way. Inside it, she recognized the hulking silhouette of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Her former rival and now friend had become her most determined hunter. "See ya, baby," Stallone muttered wryly as he weaved past the cars toward the Explorer, preparing for another desperate escape. Stallone slipped into the Explorer unnoticed, thanks to years of training for stealth in his films. Through the window, he saw Schwarzenegger emerging from the vehicle, looking imposing as the Terminator that made him famous. Arnold wasn't alone; his Predator co-star Carl Weathers was with him. The irony wasn't lost on him: the man who played Apollo Creed was now hunting Rocky Balboa in real life. Careful not to make any noise, Stallone started the engine and slowly pulled out of the parking lot through the back exit. In the rearview mirror, he saw Arnold and Carl pulling into the diner. He had gained a few precious minutes. He sped north, determined to reach Richard Gere's estate before dark. The radio was constantly broadcasting updates on the manhunt for Stallone. Apparently, the FBI had issued a statement denying any connection to the actor, but that only fueled the conspiracy theories. Now they were saying he worked for more secret agencies, or worse, foreign governments. "Like I have time to be a spy between movies," he muttered, picking up the speed. 3 hours later, Stallone spotted the unobtrusive entrance to Gere's property. A long dirt road led to a secluded farmhouse nestled among rolling green hills. As he approached the gate, he noticed the security cameras and the intercom. He pressed the button, hoping his old friend would still remember him. "Identification, please," came a neutral voice over the intercom. "Richard, it's Sly," he replied, looking directly into the camera. "I need your help. I'm in danger." There was a long silence, and for a moment Stallone feared that even Gere had bought into the lies. Finally, the gates slowly began to open. The house was a sleek mix of rustic and modern architecture, much like Gere himself, who was waiting on the porch with a worried expression. "You're all over the news, Sly," he said as Stallone parked and got out of the car. "Half of Hollywood is hunting you like you're the prize of some macabre reality show." "All based on lies," Stallone replied, accepting the firm hug Gere offered. "Someone has fabricated very convincing evidence. Even audio of my voice." Gere nodded, leading him into the house. "Artificial intelligence. They can make anyone say anything these days. Come on, you look exhausted." Inside the spacious, minimalist home, Stallone finally felt he could let his guard down, at least temporarily. Gere poured him a whiskey and sat down across from him. "Who would have a reason to destroy your reputation and turn your friends against you?" he asked, ever the analytical man his movie roles as a lawyer suggested. Stallone sipped his whiskey, letting the warmth of the drink calm his nerves. "I have a theory. Remember that project I turned down 6 months ago? Expendables, Final Legacy?" The producer, Victor Kozlov, was furious when I said the script was terrible and refused to do it. "Without me, the project fell apart." "Kozlov," Gere repeated thoughtfully. "The Russian oligarch who decided he could buy Hollywood. I've heard rumors he has connections to cyber warfare experts." Stallone nodded, the pieces beginning to fall into place. "He swore he'd make me pay. He said he'd destroy everything I'd built. At the time, I thought it was just the typical drama of a jilted producer." Gere stood up and walked over to his computer. "Let's check this theory out. I have some contacts in private security agencies who can track down the origins of these forgeries." As Gere worked, Stallone felt the fatigue of nearly 24 hours on the runway on his shoulders. He remembered a scene in Rocky II where his exhausted character kept training because he knew the fight of his life was coming. I found something, Gear said after an hour of research. All the initial posts about you came from accounts created in the last 3 months. And guess where the funding is coming from? A shell company linked to Kozlov. Stallone felt a mixture of relief and anger. He had a name, a culprit, but that didn't solve his immediate problem. We need hard evidence, Gear continued. Something we can show his friends and the media. He paused thoughtfully. Kozlov has a mansion in Malibu where he throws lavish parties. My contacts say he keeps a private server there, isolated from the internet. If the original evidence of the forgeries exists anywhere, it's there. Stallone laughed humorlessly. So you're suggesting I break into a Russian oligarch's fortress, possibly protected by armed security, to hack into a server? Sounds like the plot of one of my movies, not real life. Gear smiled. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm suggesting we do this. But first, you need to rest. And then we need a plan. As he made his way to the guest room Gear had prepared for him, Stallone felt something he hadn't experienced since his early days of vying for roles in Hollywood, a mix of fear and determination. It's not about how much time you have, it's about what you do with the time you're given, he muttered to himself, ironically quoting not one of his films, but The Lord of the Rings. With that thought in mind, he allowed himself a few hours of much-needed sleep, knowing that the real challenge was yet to come. Dawn found Stallone and Gear poring over architectural plans for Kozlov's Malibu mansion, obtained by one of Gear's many contacts in the security industry. The server room is in the basement, behind a biometric-enabled door, Gear explained, pointing to a small compartment in the plan. The challenge will be getting there without being detected. In Demolition Man, my character used a removed eye to pass through a retinal scanner, Stallone said with a half-smile. Gear looked at him seriously. Let's try something less graphic. I have a friend who's an expert in electronic security who can provide us with the equipment to bypass the system. As they were finalizing the details of their plan, the burner phone Gear had given Stallone rang. It was Bruce Willis. Sly, things are getting worse. Schwarzenegger has convinced almost everyone that you're a threat. He's using that predator rhetoric, if it bleeds, we can kill it. But got Van Damme and Chuck Norris on the phone. They have doubts about this whole thing. We need more allies, Stallone replied. And time. We're about to get evidence against the real culprit. He explained briefly about Kozlov and the plan to break into the mansion. Willis was silent for a moment. This is crazy, Sly. It sounds like something John McClane would do. Then, with determination in his voice, he added, count me in. I'll distract Arnold and the others while you execute the plan. That evening, a sleek Bentley pulled up to the gates of Kozlov's mansion, where an extravagant party was taking place. Richard Gere, impeccably dressed in a tuxedo, presented his invitation to the security guard. Beside him, barely recognizable with his dyed gray hair, neatly trimmed beard, and thick-rimmed glasses, was Sylvester Stallone, introduced as Charles Buchinski, a Czech investor, a reference to Charles Bronson's birth name that few would recognize. Remember, Gere murmured as they walked through the lighted garden toward the mansion, you're a man of few words, with a thick Eastern European accent. The less said, the better. Stallone nodded discreetly, scanning the room with a watchful eye. The mansion was a fortress disguised as a palace, with security guards strategically positioned at every entrance. Inside, the party was in full swing. Hollywood elite mingled with international moguls, all gravitating toward Viktor Kozlov, a portly, middle-aged man with a calculating smile and eyes as cold as a Russian winter. Our host, Gere whispered, indicating Kozlov with a subtle movement of his head. We must bide our time to part ways. As they walked around the room, Stallone noticed something disturbing. On a large screen, as part of the party's decoration, images of the false evidence against him were being shown. Kozlov was showing off his work as a form of entertainment for his guests. Anger boiled inside him, but he maintained his composure, remembering Rocky's words, "It's not how you hit, it's how you take the hits and keep moving forward." The opportunity arose when Kozlov stepped onto the small stage to deliver a speech. All eyes turned to the host, allowing Gere and Stallone to slip into a side hallway. Following the memorized map, they made their way to a service door that led to the basement. We have about 20 minutes before anyone notices we're gone, Gear estimated. The door to the basement was locked, but the electronic device Gear's contact had provided did its job in seconds. They descended a narrow staircase into a hallway lit by fluorescent lights, a stark contrast to the opulence of the upper floor. At the end of the hallway, as expected, was the armored door to the server room. "This is where it gets tricky," Gear said, pulling another device from the inside pocket of his tuxedo. "This will temporarily disable the biometric scanner, but we only have one shot." Stallone watched as Gear worked the security panel, wryly recalling a similar scene in Tango and Cash, only this time, the situation was real and the consequences potentially disastrous. The device beeped softly, and the door unlocked with a metallic click. They hurried into the air-conditioned room, filled with humming servers. "We need to find the main terminal," Gear said, heading for a workstation in the center of the room. Stallone stood guard at the door, listening for any sounds from the hallway. Gear inserted a special USB flash drive into his computer and set to work, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "I'm in," he announced after a few tense minutes. "Oh my God, Sly, you were right. There's an entire folder dedicated to the operation against you. Deepfake blueprints, scripts for fake emails, release schedules for the evidence, all meticulously planned." As Gear copied the files, the communicator in his pocket vibrated. It was Willis. "We have a problem. Schwarzenegger has found out where you are. He and a group are on their way to Kozlov's mansion now." Apparently someone at the party recognized Sly despite his disguise and alerted Arnold. Stallone and Gear exchanged worried glances. Time was running out. "Transfer complete," Gear announced, removing the flash drive. Just then, heavy footsteps sounded in the hallway. The door to the server room burst open, revealing Viktor Kozlov flanked by two armed security guards. His smile was as cold as a predator's. "Mr. Stallone, was surprised to find you snooping around on my private property. It seems you really are the spy everyone says you are." Stallone stepped forward, shielding Gear and the precious flash drive containing the evidence. "Game over, Kozlov. We know what you did." "You know what's ironic, Mr. Stallone?" Kozlov said, gesturing to his guards to keep their guns level. "You turned down my film because you thought the script was predictable, but look at you now, following the most cliched plot of all, the hero breaking into the villain's hideout to get evidence." Stallone stood his ground, assessing the situation as he would in any action scene. 3 opponents, confined space, 1 blocked exit. "The difference, Kozlov, is that in your bad scripts, the villain always wins," Stallone replied, biding his time as he discreetly signaled for Gear to take a stand. "In real life, guys like you always make the same mistake, they talk too much when they should be acting." As if on cue, the lights in the room flickered and went out, leaving only the blue glow of the servers illuminating the room. In the moment of confusion, Stallone acted with the speed and precision that made him famous in dozens of action films. A well-aimed blow took down the first guard, while Gear, surprisingly agile, neutralized the second with a martial arts technique reminiscent of his days in An Officer and a Gentleman. Kozlov tried to flee, but Stallone grabbed him by the collar. As he said in Rambo, "You don't rule death, but you rule fear." They tied up Kozlov and the guards using network cables found in the room. "We have to get out of here," Gear said, checking the flash drive to make sure it was secure. "Willis said Arnold and the others are on their way." Stallone nodded, but instead of heading for the exit, he walked to the main terminal. "First, let's give Kozlov a taste of his own medicine." With a few quick commands, Stallone activated the projection system at the party upstairs. The screens that had previously displayed the false evidence against him now displayed the newly discovered files, documents detailing Kozlov's plan, emails to hired hackers, payments for creating deepfakes. The elegant party descended into chaos as the guests saw the truth unfold. As they hurried up the service stairs, they heard the commotion coming from the main hall. "It seems like your reputation is being restored in real time," Gear commented. When they reached the upper floor, they saw that the guests were in shock, some already making phone calls, others taking pictures of their screens with their phones. The truth was spreading as quickly as the lies had. However, before they could reach the exit, the mansion's front door burst open with a bang. Arnold Schwarzenegger walked in, followed by Dolph Lundgren, Jason Statham, and Terry Crews, all wearing the determined expressions that Stallone knew well from their days filming together. "Sly!" Arnold boomed, his voice cutting through the din of the crowd. "Escape is over!" Stallone stepped forward, facing his former friends. "Look around, everyone. You're seeing the truth now." He pointed to the screens where evidence of Kozlov's conspiracy continued to be displayed. "I was a victim, not a villain. We were all manipulated." Arnold hesitated, his eyes moving from the screens to Stallone, doubt beginning to replace the certainty on his face. "It could be more manipulation," Statham argued, still suspicious. At that moment, Bruce Willis emerged from the crowd, accompanied by Van Damme and Chuck Norris. "It's not," Willis said, showing his phone. "I just got confirmation from contacts at the FBI. They've been investigating Kozlov for months for money laundering and cybercrime. The revenge on Sly was just the tip of the iceberg." One by one, the faces of Stallone's former tormentors changed, from distrust to understanding and finally to remorse. Arnold was the first to approach, extending his hand. "It seems that judgment was rushed, my friend." Stallone accepted the gesture, shaking hands with his old rival and friend. As he said in Rocky, "It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." As party guests and the press, who had already begun to arrive, alerted by social media posts, witnessed the reconciliation, FBI agents entered the mansion. Kozlov, who had managed to free himself and was trying to escape through the back, was detained. The look he gave Stallone was full of impotent hatred, the look of a defeated villain that Stallone had so often faced on screen, now real. In the hours that followed, the true story spread like wildfire. The same social media platforms that had condemned Stallone now celebrated him as the victim of an elaborate conspiracy. Hashtags like #SlyInnocent and #KozlovConspiracy dominated the trending pages. The media, eager for a new angle, covered every detail of the story, including the unlikely partnership between Stallone and Gere to unmask the real villain. A week later, Stallone gathered everyone in his rebuilt mansion, not just the action stars who had chased him away, but also those who had stood by him: Willis, Gere, Van Damme, Norris. It was a reunion of reconciliation, but also of celebration. "You know," Stallone said, raising a glass, "Kozlov wanted to make Expendables, Final Legacy, but he ended up giving us something better, a real-life adventure that strengthened our friendship." Arnold laughed, that trademark laugh that echoed through the room. "Maybe we should make a movie about this." The Expendables. Everyone laughed, but Stallone noticed a gleam in his friend's eyes. The idea wasn't so far-fetched. After all, the story had all the elements: action, betrayal, redemption, and most importantly, a Hollywood-style happy ending. As the evening wore on and conversation flowed, Stallone found a moment to sit alone on the porch, gazing out at the lights of Los Angeles. Richard Gere joined him, offering him a whiskey. "You know what I've learned from all this, Richard?" Stallone mused. "That the characters we've played over the years, Rocky, Rambo, all of them, have taught us more than we realize. Resilience, loyalty, courage, these aren't just fictional character traits." Gere smiled, raising his glass in a silent toast. "To life imitating art," he said. Stallone returned the gesture. "And to happy endings, both on screen and off." The sound of laughter and lively conversation drifted from inside the house, where old rivals had become stronger friends, united by an adventure no screenwriter could have imagined. It was truly an ending worthy of the best Hollywood stories.